Well, good morning, everyone. This is August Rosado with Today in Bible Prophecy Ministries. Thank you so much for tuning in on this Wednesday morning. It is March 28th, 2018. We are coming to you live from New England here at our home base in Lincoln, Rhode Island. And so it's great to have all of you with us today as we come to you with another Bible prophecy update. And then, of course, we'll be looking at the Jewish origin of the Dead Sea Scrolls. There's a lot of people out there today that love to be politically correct, biblically incorrect, and would change history, if you will. They're revisionists, and they love to change history. Let me first welcome Nancy Melton into the room this morning, along with Pastor Andrew Taylor, a good friend of ours there in Johnstown, Pennsylvania. And we're still looking to go up there, Brother Andrew, to have a prophecy meeting at your church. So hopefully you and I can get together on a date this year. Elizabeth Talbot is with us, another dear friend of ours there in Somerset, Massachusetts. Stephen Mitch Smith is with us from Mississippi. Kathy Bogan, I'll be preaching at Kathy's church soon in Lorain, Ohio. Grace Baptist Church, looking forward to being with all of them. Lynn Spears, good to see her. Good morning, Boker Tov to Elizabeth. Kathy, Boker Tov, that's Hebrew for good morning. Boker Tov to all of you. Charlotte Young is in the room with us today. And as I was saying, this morning I'm going to be talking about the Jewish origin of the Dead Sea Scrolls, simply because you have revisionists out there today. They love to change history. They will deny the facts, and they'll say something other than the truth. And then, of course, you know that we have those political wings within the United Nations, which to me is nothing but the United Nothing, that are now saying that, well, actually, I believe they're going to take a vote on this, and I know exactly where it's going to go. And they are saying that, or they're about to say, that the Dead Sea Scrolls are not Jewish. The authors were not Jewish. But they're going to say, and I'll bet any bottom dollar on this, they will say that the Dead Sea Scrolls are Palestinian in origin, that they are Arab in origin. And again, folks, if I may be blunt here, this is a lie that is right from the very pits of hell. And I'm going to show this morning that the Dead Sea Scrolls are indeed Jewish in origin. And that there's a certain sect out that was out there 2,000 years ago that were responsible for the writing of these Dead Sea Scrolls. And I'll have more to say about that in just a few moments. Well, we have Jordan Sandell, a.k.a. Jordan Michael, in the room with us today. Great to see you, Jordan. We have Dave Vandervin with us today. Great to see Brother Dave. And Tammy Beckley Johnson is also in the room with us today. And don't forget, guys, when you come into our room, I always encourage you to have your Bible in hand, because I want you to go along with me. I don't want you to take my word for it. I want you to take God's word for it. So have your Bible in hand. And take down some notes. Write down some notes. And study these things in your own time. And so this is what I encourage all of those in our room to do. Great to see Dennis Higgins Jr. in the room with us today. Within another week or so, my wife and I will be boarding a plane, and we'll be heading to the Midwest, as I will be preaching at churches in Ohio and Indiana. And that's going to be for the month of April. So we're going to be on the road for the month of April. But we will still be coming to you with our weekly Bible prophecy updates coming to you from Ohio and Indiana, just like we did when we were just recently in Israel. So we'll be coming to you from Indiana and Ohio. And so pray for us when we get on a plane. Pray for traveler mercies, and pray that God would use us as we go out to these churches to preach on Jesus' soon return, which could even be today. So that's going to be coming up within another week or so. And listen, if you're a pastor of a good, solid, independent, fundamental, Bible-believing church, and you would like to have me come to your church to preach on Israel, Bible prophecy, and current events, give us a holler here at Today in Bible Prophecy Ministries. Go to my website, todayinbibleprophecy.org. You can contact us through there, through Facebook Messenger. Send me a private chat, and let me know what date you might have in mind. And so we would love to come to your church to preach on these up-to-date topics concerning Israel, the Jewish people, the nations of the world, the next main event on God's calendar of events that we call the rapture of the church. Speaking of the rapture of the church, I recently wrote a book entitled Looking for the Promise of the Blessed Hope. Why you can still believe in the doctrine of the rapture. This is my brand new book. And in this book, I defend why we believe in the rapture, why we use the word rapture, why it is a biblical doctrine, why it is the church's blessed hope. And unfortunately today, the church has thrown out the baby with the bathwater, because now we no longer believe in the rapture. We no longer believe in the coming of the Lord. I'm not talking about unbelievers. I'm talking about believers who are now rejecting the doctrine of the rapture. And so I talk about this in my brand new book, Looking for the Promise of the Blessed Hope. The book is $15 plus $3 shipping and handling. I will personally autograph this book for you, and you order it today, it's going to go right out to you today. So order this book, Looking for the Promise of the Blessed Hope. It's my brand new book. Back in November, I wrote another book called Bible Eschatology, looking at geopolitical events in light of biblical prophecy. And that's what we do every day on my live programs. We look at the political, because the political is setting the stage for the prophetic to be fulfilled. And so I look at geopolitical activities in Israel, the Middle East, and around the world, and then I give a plain sense interpretation of Bible prophecy concerning those geopolitical activities. That's it, just a plain sense interpretation of Bible prophecy. In the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be starting on a sequel to this book, Bible Eschatology 2, a continued look at geopolitical events in light of biblical prophecy. So we got part 1, and then I'll be working on part 2 of this book, which will be my 7th book. So I'm looking forward to seeing what God is going to do with that. Lord's already using this book, and we've been getting feedback from people who said, August, thank you so much for reinforcing our belief in the doctrine of the rapture, because even some solid guys out there, solid Bible guys, were wavering on the doctrine of the rapture. And reading the book, they said, brother, you reinforced my belief in this precious doctrine, the doctrine of the rapture. Let me say hello to Becky Matthew, Michael Popes. And I love Michael, because every time he comes into the room, he says, I'm here, bro. He wants you to know that he's there. So I'm glad you're there, brother. Thank you so much for being with us. Shane Hickman and Rose Argentina Porras. Thank you guys so much for being in the room with us today. I am glad you are here. No, when God called out to Abraham, Abraham said in Hebrew, Hineni. Here am I. That's what Michael Pope's saying, man. Hineni. I'm here, bro. So I'm glad that all of you are here today. Now, guys, you know that we're looking to try to do a prophecy tour to Israel in June. And I'm looking to take at least 15 to 18 people with us. If we can get at least 15 to 18 people to come to the Holy Land with us in June this year, 6th through the 15th, which also includes Petra in southern Jordan, I want to teach you Bible prophecy on location. So if you'd like to come to Israel with us this upcoming June, let me know. I want to take at least 15 to 18 people. I want to make it small, and I want to make it personal for everybody. You might know somebody that's looking to go on a tour to Israel. But see, these tours we call the Bible prophecy tour of Israel because I teach Bible prophecy on location. And we also add extra bonuses on these tours that no other, for example, I want to take you to Bethany. Christian tour groups don't go to Bethany. I want to take you to the tomb of Lazarus in Bethany. Why don't Christians go there? Because it's an Arab town. So what? I've been there with Dr. Todd Baker. We didn't have any issues there. They were absolutely, on the contrary, friendly to us. I want to take you to Bethany. I want to take you to Hebron. You know, in the West, we say either Hebron or Hebron with a B as in Bob. But in Israel, they say it's Hebron with a V as in Victor. Hebron. I want to take you to the tomb of the patriarchs and the matriarchs, where Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob are buried, where Sarah is buried, where Rebecca is buried. I want to take you there and show you this tomb. Christians don't, tour groups don't go to Hebron, but I took my tour group there, didn't even have an issue. No problems at all. I want to take you to the snow cone looking mountain of Herodium. That was one of King Herod's palaces, where, according to Josephus, when Herod died, he was buried there at Herodium. And about 4 years ago, we were there at Herodium at the same time. Archaeologists found the sarcophagus. It was busted up, but they found the sarcophagus of Herodium that could be seen today at the Israel Museum. We'll take you there as well. So these are very special tours that we do. We make it personal, and the fellowship is sweet. If you'd like to come to Israel with us this June, you need to let me know right now. The tour price is about $35.50 per person, all inclusive, which includes Israel, Petra, in southern Jordan. Petra will play a major role in prophecy. It includes your round-trip airfare, buffet, breakfast and dinner daily. It's all buffet. Transportation, hotels, all of that is included. So we'd love to take you to Israel with us. So let me know. Or maybe you might be a pastor of a church. You're looking for a tour host to lead your church group to Israel. My wife and I would love to be your tour host. You can also let us know that you're looking for a tour host. We'd love to come to the Holy Land with you and teach you and your people Bible prophecy on location. So again, get a hold of us on my website, todayinbibleprophecy.org. Our number is there on the website or through Facebook Messenger. And also look at all of our late-breaking news stories on Twitter. My handle is August Rosado at Bible_prophecy. And I list all the late-breaking news stories there on Twitter. Look at all of my videos on YouTube. We have about, I think, 261 videos on YouTube. And look at all of our recent Bible prophecy teaching from Israel with Dr. Todd Baker and myself. And of course, these look at Pastor Andrew Taylor. He invited me a few years back to be a tour host on their Bible prophecy tour to Israel. He said, Brother August hosted our group and did an amazing job. Thank you so much, Andrew. I appreciate that. And actually, the very first church group to ask me to do this was Pastor Andrew Taylor's church. And I'll tell you, man, we had a wonderful time. We had a belly full of laughs at the same time. But man, I'll tell you, boy, we had a wonderful fellowship out there with Brother Andrew. And we also took them through Hezekiah's tunnel. Remember that, Andrew? Hezekiah's tunnel in Jerusalem. A 2,600-year-old tunnel mentioned in the Bible. 2 Chronicles 36, 2 Kings 20:20. And I took Andrew and some of his people right through Hezekiah's tunnel. You can still see the pick marks on the walls from 2,600 years ago. And then we ended up at the Pool of Siloam, mentioned in the Gospel of John, chapter number 9. I had a great time with Andrew and all of his people. So if you're a pastor of a church, you'd like me to host your tour group, then give us a call and let us know. We would love to come to and host a Bible prophecy tour at your church. But I also would love to have you come with us to Israel in June. And let me know if you would be interested. Again, I'm only doing small tours between 15 to 18 people. And that's about it. It's a good group. We get to do more, see more, and throw in those extra tidbits, throw in those extra bonuses that are not on our tour itinerary. We do that all the time. And so, give me a holler and let me know that you would be interested. Great to see my brother-in-law, Skip McGinnis from Alabama here, Johnny Terrell, Mark Cullen. Let me make sure I got this right here. I hate when I butcher people's names. Helms. Mark Cullen Helms is with us. And we also have Darling Trasmont with us in the room today. So I will have more to say at the end of our broadcast. No, I just got back from Israel about 4 days ago. Had a wonderful time out there sharing the gospel with the Jewish people. We were, of course, passing out complete Hebrew Bibles. We had bigger Bibles than this. These are just some of the Bibles we passed out there in Israel. Complete Hebrew Bibles, Old and New Testament. Of course, you see it's, let me see, I get this right here. It's always difficult to try to get this going here. Torah, Nevi'im, Ketuvim, and Barit Chadashah. The law, prophets, writings, and New Covenant or New Testament. A complete Hebrew Bible. We were passing these out to Jews in stores, in malls, in Tel Aviv, Netanya, the Galilee, Jerusalem. And the Jewish people were so open to our sharing the gospel with them. And Dr. Todd Baker and I call this 44th Israel Gospel Outreach the perfect season, the perfect game, the perfect reception. Because not one Israeli rejected the Bible from us. Not one Israeli rejected our gospel outreach. They were so open to hearing us share the gospel with them. Kathy, great to see Judy Morin in the room with us. Kathy says, I need a pair of glasses like yours. I'm always losing mine. You can order these on Amazon, by the way, Kathy. They're magnets. See, they come apart or they just come together. So these are not prescription. They're just reading glasses. Judy says, we love your Israel picks. Thank you for sharing them. You're more than welcome, Judy. We got more to come. We have Christian. Make sure I got this right here. We have Christian, Peggy Hershey. And of course, Jody says, I love his glasses. Every time I wear these glasses at church, people are like, what in the world is that? So we have Elizabeth Abulot Banito with us today. So again, guys, thank you all so much for coming into the room with us. We do appreciate you. And, when you have an opportunity, visit my website and look at our store. Order all of these Holy Land items that I just brought back from Israel personally. Prayer shawls, talit, in Hebrew, out of Numbers 15, 37 through 40. Jews have been wearing the talit for almost 3,500 years. Jesus, as a Jew, wore a talit. And then, of course, we have the Jerusalem handbags that I just picked up from Israel. They say Jerusalem on it. These are red. We have them in red, powder blue, dark blue. We have them in pink. And they have the matching change bags that go with them. I picked these up personally when I am in Israel. These bags are like $20. plus $5 shipping and handling. You can order those off of our website. We have Holy Land anointing oils that you can order off our store website, and myrrh, spikenard, frankincense, biblical fragrances in the Bible. You can order those from our store, and our books and other items that you can order from our website. And hope that you take an opportunity to bring a little Israel back home to you. Any of the orders, either for the books or Holy Land items, if you order today, they will go out today. So hope that you take an opportunity. Great to see Bill Bogman in the room with us, and Tim Leonard. Tim Leonard was on this recent Zoe 11 Ministries tour, and I met Tim there. And we had great fellowship with Tim. Now, even though Todd and I went with the Zoe 11 Ministries tour group, we were apart from the tour. They went touring, we went evangelizing. We went soul winning. And so, but that's where I met Brother Tim. And Tim recognized me from past TV shows that I did, whether with ZLM or Dave Reagan, Lamb and Lion Ministries. And so we had a great fellowship with Tim and all the people at the Zoe 11 Ministries tour group. Now, I'll be back in Israel in October with Zoe 11 Ministries. They just booked my airfare and flights and all that, hotels. So we'll be back with the Zoe 11 Ministries tour group in October. But I'm really hoping that we can be back in Israel in June with some of you for our Bible prophecy tour of the Holy Land. I want you to take your Bibles with me this morning. I want to direct your attention to the book of Acts, chapter number 5, if you will. Hello, Charity Camp from Wyoming, Illinois. Great to see Charity in the room with us today, dear friend of ours. I want to direct your attention to the book of Acts, chapter number 5. And I want to direct your attention to verses 36 and 37 concerning a couple of guys 2,000 years ago. These guys misled, I guess would be a better term. They misled a group of Jews. These Jews thought that maybe they have been the Messiah, that they were the Messiah, but instead they met their demise. Some believe that these men could have been some of those who escaped the corruption of Jerusalem and the religious corruptible leadership in Jerusalem, and may have fled to either the Dead Sea area and maybe even the Galilee area, as the Romans were occupying the land at this time, killing Jews left and right. In Acts chapter 5 and verse 36, it says this: "For before these days rose up Theudas, boasting himself to be somebody, to whom a number of men, about 400, joined themselves, who was slain, and all, as many as obeyed him, were scattered and brought to naught," or brought to nothing. Verse 37, "After this man rose up Judas of Galilee in the days of the taxing, and drew away much people after him. He also perished, and all, even as many as obeyed him." Many believe this could have been the census spoken about in Luke chapter number 2. And so Theudas and Judas were a couple of false messiahs. And many people ran after these guys. And they ended up meeting a very nasty demise. Some would even believe that these guys could be some of a Jewish sect that left the religious corruption in Jerusalem and went to the area of the Dead Sea and formed a community. I want to talk about who these people were. Let me say hello to Antonio Cruz, Rolando, Trio Picong, and Matthew Cruz. Welcome to our broadcast this morning. What I want to talk about this morning is the Jewish origin of the Dead Sea Scrolls. Last year, 2017, the German government made a very ignorant statement. The German government caused a controversy when they made a statement that the Dead Sea Scrolls don't belong to Israel. They don't belong to the Jewish people. And that statement caused a rift between the governments of the state of Israel and Germany. The German comment that the Dead Sea Scrolls are not Jewish in origin, or they don't belong to the Jews, is based on nothing more, ladies and gentlemen, than ignorance. And then UNESCO, oh, who can forget UNESCO? The United Nations Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, which to me is nothing but a joke. UNESCO has tried to separate the Jews from their ancestral holy places by saying Jerusalem is not a Jewish city. The Temple Mount has no Jewish connection. The Kotel, with a K is in King, Kotel, or Western Wall, or Wailing Wall, has no Jewish connection at all. But all those places, according to UNESCO, belong to the Palestinians. Again, that comment, like the German government comment, is not only based on ignorance, but also on anti-Semitism. Why would both Germany and UNESCO, ladies and gentlemen, why would both of these organizations, a country and an organization, why would they both make controversial statements like that? Again, two factors. Number one, ignorance, and number two, anti-Semitism. The purpose of UNESCO, they are supposed to preserve ancient places for the indigenous people of that particular land, except for the land of the Jewish people. UNESCO denies that Jerusalem is Jewish, despite King David taking it from the Jebusites in 2 Samuel chapter 5 and making Jerusalem his capital. David reigns in Hebron for 7.5 years, moves his base of operations from Hebron to Jerusalem, conquers Jerusalem from the Canaanite Jebusites, and he made Jerusalem his capital. That was 3,000 years ago. UNESCO denies that the Temple Mount is Jewish, despite Abraham taking his son Isaac there for sacrifice in Genesis chapter number 22, and David purchasing the threshing floor from Ornan or Aruna, he goes by two different names, the Jebusite, in 2 Samuel chapter 24, that would pave the way for his son Solomon to build the first Jewish temple in 2 Chronicles chapter 3 and verse number 1. UNESCO also denies that the Kotel, which is Hebrew for the Western or Wailing Wall, they deny that that is Jewish, despite, and I was just there, standing in front of massive Herodian stones that the Romans threw down 2,000 years ago when they destroyed Jerusalem in 70 AD. And right at that very area where Todd and I were standing, right in front of those massive Herodian stones, tangible evidence of Jesus' prophecy of Jerusalem's destruction in Matthew 24 in the Olivet Discourse, right in that same area, archaeologists just found a cache of Jewish coins from the Great Jewish Revolt against Rome between 66 and 70 AD. And right on those stones were written in ancient Aramaic, Legelat Shal Yerushalayim, for the defense of Jerusalem. The Jews were defending their holy city, their holy capital, against the Romans. And they just found a cache of coins. Man, why didn't I find them? I was right over there. But they found a cache of coins right there at that area. And that was in the area of the Western Plaza, of the Western Wall of the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. But yet, UNESCO says there is no Jewish connection to the Wailing Wall or the Western Wall, the Kotel. There's no Jewish connection to the Temple Mount. There's no Jewish connection to Jerusalem. And then they go beyond that. And I was right there, ladies and gentlemen, looking at those massive Herodian stones. And the wall itself, the Western Wall, was the retaining wall for the temple during the Second Temple period in the time of Jesus, in the 1st century AD, 2,000 years ago. But yet, despite all of this evidence, UNESCO says there's no Jewish connection whatsoever. Surprise, surprise. Now, a vote is coming up at the United Nations as UNESCO will decide whether the Dead Sea Scrolls are Jewish in origin or Palestinian in origin. Let me tell you something. A 2-year-old can answer that obvious question. We know where this vote is going to go with UNESCO. UNESCO is going to go ahead and say that the Dead Sea Scrolls are not Jewish in origin, but they're Palestinian, they're Arab in origin. You want to talk about such hubris, ladies and gentlemen? UNESCO and the United Nations, for that matter, is nothing but a joke. We began in Acts chapter 5, verses 36 and 37, where it records a group of Jewish men, 400 in all, who followed a man by the name of Theudas, who fled with his people, possibly to the Dead Sea area. We're not sure, it doesn't tell us. As the Romans were in the land slaughtering Jews left and right 2,000 years ago. Another mention of a man by the name of Judas of Galilee, who drew many Jews after him, and he and his people were also slaughtered during this time of the taxing, the census, if you will. Again, by the Romans. They left Jerusalem for either Galilee or the area of the Dead Sea. And the Jewish historian Josephus Flavius mentions both these men in his books, The Antiquities of the Jews and The Jewish Wars. Josephus makes reference to both of those individuals outside the Bible. Josephus refers to Theudas and his insurrection in Antiquities, book 16, chapter number 10. If you don't have a copy of Josephus, by all means, please get a copy. Go to the library and lease it out, or not lease it out, but borrow it, or order it from any Christian bookstore, or buy it on Amazon. And Josephus gives us so much information concerning the antiquities of the Jews prior to the Jewish revolt against Rome and the Jewish wars. The wars against Rome between 66 and 70 AD. So Josephus makes reference to Theudas, and he also makes reference to Judas's insurrection. And of course, we know that Judas was mentioned in the Gospels in Matthew 10:3 and Luke 6:16. Not talking about Judas Iscariot. Don't confuse the two. But this Judas who led this insurrection and gathered many Jews to follow him. Ladies and gentlemen, let me make something very clear here. These were events in Jewish history long before the Arabs came on the scene in the 7th century AD. And I'm talking some 700 years after the ministry of Jesus in the land of Israel. Yet UNESCO ignorantly denies this, and they'll go as far as to say that Bethlehem has no Jewish connection at all, despite King David being born there, despite King Jesus being born there. Yet they say there's no Jewish connection to Bethlehem. The Jewish fortress at Beitar, UNESCO says that there's no Jewish connection there. It's Palestinian. The caves of the patriarchs at Hebron, UNESCO says has no Jewish connection, but is Palestinian. And even the tomb of Joseph, come on, man. Even the tomb of Joseph, UNESCO says, has no Jewish connection at all. If I may again be blunt, folks, that's just outright stupidity. Outright, clear, pure stupidity. What else will they deny that is Jewish in origin in the Holy Land? Of course, the Dead Sea Scrolls, a vote that's coming up soon at the United Nations. The Palestinian Authority, or the PA, is now looking for UNESCO to give them cultural ownership of the Dead Sea Scrolls. It's nothing more, ladies and gentlemen, excuse me, than a political ploy to erase any Jewish connection, excuse me, to the Holy Land, any Jewish connection to Jerusalem, any Jewish connection to the Dead Sea Scrolls, any Jewish connection to the Temple Mount, any Jewish connection to Bethlehem, or anywhere in the land of Israel. Palestinian Authority is looking for license from UNESCO to erase all Jewish connection to the Holy Land and give them cultural ownership of these places, including ownership of the Dead Sea Scrolls. UNESCO now calls the Temple Mount by its Arabic name, Haram al-Sharif, which is Arabic for the noble sanctuary. Why would the Arabs call the Temple Mount in Arabic Haram al-Sharif, the noble sanctuary? Well, folks, there was a temple up there. Not an Arab temple, a Jewish temple. And yet today, the Palestinians deny that there ever was a temple on the Temple Mount. They say Solomon's temple was a myth. Herod's temple was a myth. Well, if the temples were a myth, why do you call the Temple Mount in Arabic Haram al-Sharif, noble sanctuary? Because there were sanctuaries up there. There were two Jewish sanctuaries up there. Solomon's sanctuary that stood for 400 years, and Herod's sanctuary that stood for 600 years. But UNESCO will never call the Temple Mount by its Hebrew name, Har Harbayet, which is Hebrew for Mount of the House. Bayet, Beit, the house which would be the temple that stood on that historical spot where today the Islamic shrine of the Dome of the Rock sits. It's been there for over 1,300 years, the Dome of the Rock. But it occupies the site of Solomon's temple and of Herod's temple. We know, according to Bible prophecy, a third temple is going to occupy that spot, the Tribulation Temple. And during the Millennial Kingdom, a fourth temple will occupy that site, the Millennial Temple, Messiah's temple. According to Ezekiel chapters 40 through 46, covering 202 detailed verses concerning the Millennial Temple, that fourth temple. UNESCO won't even refer to the Western Wall by its Hebrew name, Kotel, K-O-T-E-L, Kotel. They'll refer to it only by its Arabic name, Burqa, or the Burqa Plaza. They won't call it the Kotel, the Western Wall Plaza, the Wailing Wall Plaza. They'll only call it Burqa. Burqa, because they say that Muhammad took a night journey on his horse Burka from the Temple Mount up into heaven. There is no evidence of that whatsoever. That's not it. That event is not in the Quran, nor in the Hadith, the personal sayings of Muhammad. Because, ladies and gentlemen, of this blatant denial of historical Jewish heritage sites by UNESCO, President Trump said the United States will stop funding UNESCO. It's about time. And Israel said they will also stop funding UNESCO. And both countries have threatened that they will drop their membership in UNESCO. And if that happens, you can kiss UNESCO goodbye. And believe me, I won't be shedding a tear. Listen, there were various Jewish sects in Jerusalem in the 1st century AD, 2,000 years ago. You had Pharisees, you had Sadducees, you had Herodians, you had Zealots. But one particular Jewish sect I'd like to focus in on is a sect called the Essenes. The Essenes were an exclusive Jewish group who broke away from the religious corruption in Jerusalem. They hated the religious corruption of the Pharisees, the Sadducees, the Herodians, especially of the Sadducees. They were a very liberal Jewish sect. The Sadducees denied the afterlife. They denied the existence of angels. They denied the resurrection. And they had control of the temple at this time, and they capitulated to the Romans. And the Essenes didn't like that. So what they did is they broke away from the religious corruption in Jerusalem, left Jerusalem, and went further south to an area near the Dead Sea. They founded a community near the Dead Sea called Qumran. They were a disciplined group of Jews who had very strict rules, very strict religious guidelines for their people. Many believe that John the Baptist, Yohanan HaMakbil, as they say in Hebrew, could have possibly been an Essene before breaking away from the group to preach repentance to the people of Israel, as we read about in Matthew, chapter number 3. Then all of a sudden, the Jewish revolt against Rome breaks out between the years 66 and 70 AD. If I may, I want to show you something. So I should have probably had it before the show, but I'm just going to go right here. Hold on 1 second. I want to show you guys something. Okay. I'm back. What I have in my possession, and I am just really blessed to have this. What I have in my possession, ladies and gentlemen, is a 2,000-year-old Jewish revolt coin. Now, I want to see if I can bring that up to the camera. Okay, here it is. Let me see. Oh, come on now. There we go. I'm going to turn it around right here, see if you can see that as well. You're looking at a 2,000-year-old Jewish revolt coin. This was minted at Masada between the years 66 and 70 AD. The Romans are now making their march toward Masada after Jerusalem's fall, after Jerusalem's destruction and the temple being destroyed. The Romans are marching further south to a place called Masada. I take my tour groups to Masada all the time. It was one of Herod's palaces before the Zealots took it over. The Jewish Zealots, known as Sakari, men of the dagger. Speaking of dagger, I got to show you something else. Hold on, I'm sorry, guys. Men of the dagger. And so I guess we're having some show and tell this morning here. They were known as men of the great dagger. Now, if you ever come to my house, I got so much Jewish antiquity here. I have so much archaeological stuff here that'll make your head spin. They were known as the men of the great dagger. In my hands is a 2,000-year-old dagger, uncovered from the ruins of Jerusalem. This is a Roman dagger. If this thing could talk, the stories it would tell us. This is a 2,000-year-old Roman dagger that I got in Jerusalem. Could have had leather over here or something at that time. And the Romans, of course, would have, killed their people, killed people with this. But the zealots were known as the men of the great dagger. And they carried knives just like this one, right here. And if the zealots knew that you were in cahoots with the Romans, they would find you out as a fellow Jew. They don't care. They would find you out in a crowd, and before you know it, they would plunge a dagger right into you. Also in my possession here are 2,000-year-old Roman arrowheads. Can you see that? Roman arrowheads uncovered in Jerusalem, probably during the Jewish revolt against Rome between 66 and 70 AD. Now that Jerusalem is destroyed, the Romans now make their march toward Masada, a Jewish stronghold of the Zealots. But in order to get to Masada, you have to pass by Qumran. That is where the Essene community was. And over there at Qumran, and I'll take you to Qumran on my Bible prophecy tours to Israel. Come with us in June. The Essenes wrote hundreds of scrolls, including many books of the Bible, except for the book of Esther. Esther was not found among the books of the Bible of the Dead Sea Scrolls. And the reason why I believe that Esther was not found is because the Essenes, being a very God-fearing Jewish community, and they broke away from the corruption of the world, from the corruption that was going on in Jerusalem by the priesthood. They founded their own sect, their own community. They mentioned God in everything. They wrote about God in everything. When they woke up in the morning, the first word to come out of their mouth was God. When they went to bed at night, the last word to come out of their mouth was God. They mentioned God in everything. But the reason why Esther wasn't found among the Dead Sea Scrolls is because the book of Esther, in all 9 chapters, never once makes mention of the name of God. God's name is not found once in the book of Esther. So the Essenes, knowing that, refused to copy the book of Esther. Now, knowing that the Romans were coming, making their march toward Masada, the Essenes hid the scrolls in jars. In all these things are coming up right now. Let me show you this right here. It's a little small. Okay, where is it? Here we go. Again, it's more show and tell. All right, here we go. They hid the scrolls in jars. I have a little mini replica of a Dead Sea Scroll jar. When the Essenes were done writing the scrolls, knowing the Romans were coming, they took the scrolls, put them in those jars, placed a lid on it. Now, I saw one of the original Dead Sea Scroll jars at my friend Shibli Kondo's shop in Bethlehem. He owns one of the original Dead Sea Scroll jars. The Israel Museum has 2 original Dead Sea Scroll jars, and the Vatican in Rome has one of the other Dead Sea Scroll jars. How they got it, I don't know. It belongs in Israel. But they do. And they took those jars and they hid them in the caves at Qumran. The caves are adjacent to the Essene community. I'll show you where those caves are. Amazing. You can still walk through the remains of the Essene community. And the area where they would have penned the Dead Sea Scrolls. This was a Jewish sect, ladies and gentlemen. Not an Arab sect. A Jewish sect. And the reason why they hid those scrolls in those jars is so that the Romans would not find them and the Romans would not burn them. You see, the Romans burned Bibles. The Bolsheviks banned Bibles. Actually, the Catholics banned Bibles, and the Bolsheviks outlawed Bibles. If the Romans would have found those scrolls, they would have burned every single one of them. So the Essenes went ahead and hid those scrolls in the caves at Qumran. And by the time the Romans got there, they slaughtered the Essenes, but they did not find those scrolls. The Essenes were slaughtered by the Romans, but they never found the scrolls until 2,000 years later, in 1947, where a Bedouin Arab shepherd looking for some lost sheep happened to pick up a stone, threw it into the cave in hopes of flushing one of the lost sheep out, and he hears the breaking of pottery. That don't sound right. He walks into that cave and he noticed jars. Picked up those jars. Noticed that there were scrolls in them. Went back to Jerusalem with some of those scrolls, sold a few of them for cheap money, 25, 30 bucks. Man, he had no idea what he had was priceless. Before you know it, word got out, and the archaeological world descended on the scene at Qumran. And when it was all said and done, they found 981 scroll manuscripts that they found, ladies and gentlemen, in 11 caves at Qumran. The scrolls were written in Hebrew, ancient Aramaic, not Arabic, in Hebrew and ancient Aramaic script. They dated those scrolls from the 1st century BC to the 1st century AD. The more popular scrolls that were found are the book of Isaiah scroll that has the entire book of Isaiah. The Son of God scroll. Yes, there's a scroll called the Son of God scroll. And the War scroll, which is an apocalyptic scroll, in which the Essenes believe that in the future there'll be a war between the sons of light and the sons of darkness. When you go to Jerusalem today, give me an opportunity to take you to a place called the Shrine of the Book. The Shrine of the Book is a museum that is shaped like the top of the lid of the Dead Sea jar scrolls. It looks something just like this right here. It looks like the top of the lid of the jars of the Dead Sea Scrolls. When you walk into the Shrine of the Book, which is all white to represent the sons of light that the Essenes talked about, adjacent to the Shrine of the Book Museum is a large black wall that represents the sons of darkness. And when you walk into the Shrine of the Book today in Jerusalem, encased in glass is the entire book of Isaiah that they found among the Dead Sea Scrolls. The Jewish historian Josephus Flavius mentions the Essenes at Qumran as a very tight-knit community with vigorous rules. And right there at Qumran are many Jewish mikvahs. Jewish mikvahs were uncovered at Qumran, which were ancient we would say baptism.